The absolute worst advice you can give a lonely person is telling them to just put themselves out there. Because every time you force a connection just to feel normal, you are quietly destroying your own nervous system. You don't need more friends. You need to stop trying. Today, I'm going to show you why your isolation is actually your brain trying to save you. We live in a world that treats loneliness like a disease, and the only prescribed cure is to go out, socialize, and collect people. If you feel empty, they tell you to join a club. If your weekends are quiet, they tell you to text someone, anyone, just to have plans. So you do. You push yourself. You get dressed, you show up, you force the smiles, and you laugh at the jokes. But then you come home. You close your bedroom door, drop your keys, and suddenly it hits you. A wave of exhaustion so heavy it physically hurts. You were just surrounded by people, maybe even people you technically call friends, yet you have never felt more utterly, profoundly alone. This is the reality of social burnout. It happens when you spend your energy trying to bridge a gap that was never meant to be crossed. You see, society has convinced us that having zero friends is a symptom of failure. We internalize this idea that if our phone isn't buzzing, we are somehow broken. Out of that fear, we start collecting what I call survival friendships. Survival friendships are the connections you maintain strictly for the optics. They are the people you grab coffee with so you have a story to tell when someone asks about your weekend. They are the group chats you stay in, even though you have to mute the notifications because reading their conversations makes you feel completely alienated. You hold on to these people not because you feel seen by them, but because you are terrified of what it means to be seen entirely by yourself. But forcing someone into your life just to fill a void is a dangerous game. It is a double-edged sword that cuts you deeply every time you pretend to be someone you are not. When you try to mold yourself into a shape that fits a crowd, you chip away at your own identity. You start compromising your values, your boundaries, and your peace, all for the sake of not looking like a loner. The exhaustion you feel isn't because you are fundamentally flawed or socially inept. It is the heavy, agonizing toll of a performance. You are playing a character who belongs, and the curtain never seems to close. I need you to hear this, and I need you to let it sink in. The solution to your loneliness is not finding more people. Adding more bodies to a room does not cure a lonely mind. The true solution is something entirely different. It requires you to stop running. It requires you to turn around, face the quiet, and completely reset your relationship with silence. Have you ever looked at your phone, seen a text message from someone asking to hang out, and instead of feeling excited, you felt a sudden, heavy drop in your chest? Your breathing gets a little shallower. Your mind immediately starts racing, looking for a believable excuse to say no. Society will tell you that you are just being antisocial. They will tell you that you are letting your anxiety win. But what if I told you that your reaction has absolutely nothing to do with being a bad friend and everything to do with biology? To understand why you feel this way, we have to look at what is actually happening inside your brain when you force yourself to socialize. In psychology, there is a term called masking. Masking is the exhausting process of artificially altering your personality to match the expectations of the room. It is the forced laughter at jokes you don't find funny. It is the hyper-vigilant scanning of other people's facial expressions to make sure you are saying the right thing. It is the constant, underlying pressure to appear normal. When you are masking, your brain is working in overdrive. You are not just hanging out. You are actively performing a threat assessment. Because you are terrified of being misunderstood or rejected, your nervous system remains in a heightened state of alert. This continuous emotional labor floods your body with cortisol, the primary stress hormone, while simultaneously draining your dopamine reserves. This is why a simple 2-hour dinner can leave you feeling like you just ran a mental marathon. Your battery isn't just low, it is entirely depleted. And this brings us to the most important realization you might ever have about your isolation. When your brain anticipates this massive drain of energy, it triggers a literal fight or flight response. That tight knot in your chest when you get an invitation? That is your nervous system screaming at you. It is recognizing a threat to your emotional survival. So here is the twist that therapists rarely say out loud. Your deep desire to isolate yourself is not a personality flaw. It is not a sign that you are weird, broken, or destined to be a loner. Your isolation is a highly intelligent, sophisticated defense mechanism engineered by a sensitive nervous system that is desperately begging for rest. Your brain is pulling you away from the crowd to protect you from burning to the ground. You have been judging yourself for stepping away from the world, when in reality, your body is doing exactly what it is designed to do. It is trying to heal you. But to actually heal, we have to stop confusing two very different concepts. We have to draw a permanent line between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is what happens when you abandon yourself in order to fit in with a crowd. It is the agonizing feeling of being completely disconnected from who you are, even when you are surrounded by people. Solitude, on the other hand, is the cure. Solitude is the intentional, powerful choice to step away from the noise. It is the sanctuary where your nervous system finally stops performing, drops the mask, and begins to recalibrate. You don't need to force yourself back into the crowd to cure your loneliness. You need to sink deeper into your solitude until the silence stops feeling like a punishment and starts feeling like home. Let's talk about the fantasy. The one we are constantly fed every single time we unlock our screens. We are bombarded with this hyper-curated image of the perfect friend group. The loyal squad. The people who are supposedly always there, traveling together, laughing at inside jokes, showing up unannounced with coffee when you are having a bad day. We look at these cinematic representations of friendship. We look at our own quiet lives, and a heavy, sinking question forms in our minds. Why don't I have that? What is fundamentally wrong with me? This illusion is incredibly toxic. It creates a chronic sense of inadequacy. We spend our best years waiting in the wings, hoping to finally stumble upon our people, deeply believing that once we find this magical tribe, the ache in our chest will permanently disappear. But in our desperate, quiet search to find where we belong, highly empathetic people almost always fall into a very specific, devastating trap. You become the therapist friend. You know exactly the role I am talking about. You are the one who is always available to listen. You absorb their complaints. You validate their anger. You offer measured, thoughtful advice when their relationships fall apart. You become a safe, reliable haven for everyone else's emotional baggage. You give, and you give, and you give, thinking that this intense emotional labor is the price you have to pay to earn a secure spot in their lives. But then, the inevitable happens. You hit a wall. You have a day where the weight of your own life becomes far too heavy to carry. And the moment you are the one who is drowning, the moment you just need someone to sit beside you in the dark without offering cheap platitudes, the room goes completely quiet. Suddenly, everyone is busy. Suddenly, the exact people whose fires you helped put out cannot even spare a single drop of water for yours. Here is the brutal, unspoken psychology behind this dynamic. Your intense, starving desire to be understood is actually making you a magnet for people who only want to be heard. When you are desperate for connection, your boundaries become invisible. You start accepting absolute crumbs of attention and trying to convince yourself it is a full meal. You unknowingly invite emotional vampires into your life. People who entirely consume your peace and offer absolutely zero reciprocity, simply because their draining presence feels marginally better than the deafening silence of your own room. But you need to hear this clearly. Being used is not the same thing as being loved. Being needed for your utility, for your ability to fix others, is not the same as being valued for your humanity. The illusion of finding your people is keeping you tethered to toxic dynamics. You have to accept a reality that society tries very hard to distract us from. The most profound, transformative, and brilliant chapters of human existence cannot be experienced in a crowded room. They cannot be outsourced to a group chat. They must be walked entirely alone. Letting go of the fantasy that a perfect group of friends is coming to save you from your loneliness is terrifying. But the moment you stop waiting for the right people to arrive is the exact moment you finally take your power back. So, how do we actually do this? How do we transition from being terrified of a quiet Friday night to actively craving it? You don't just wake up one day and suddenly love being alone. It is a conscious, neurological rewiring process. It requires passing through 3 very distinct stages of mastering your solitude. Stage 1 is the relationship detox. This is where you stop watering dead plants. I am not telling you to send angry paragraphs or dramatically burn bridges. This is about a quiet, intentional withdrawal of your life force. You stop being the one who always initiates the group chat. You stop saying yes to the coffee dates you spend 3 days dreading. You stop sending messages to people who only ever reply with a generic reaction. When you stop manually keeping these forced connections alive, you will watch them naturally, quietly fall away. And yes, your circle will shrink rapidly. Let it. You are not losing friends. You are clearing out the psychological clutter that has been draining your peace. But that brings us to stage 2, and I need to be brutally honest with you. Stage 2 is going to hurt. I call this the crowd withdrawal syndrome. When you finally cut out the noise, the silence that replaces it is going to feel deafening. Human beings are biologically wired for tribal connection, so when your brain suddenly registers that you are entirely alone on a Saturday night, it is going to panic. Your mind will start playing tricks on you. It will whisper that you are a loser, that everyone else is out having the time of their lives, and that you have made a terrible mistake. During this withdrawal phase, you will feel an overwhelming, almost physical itch to reach out to someone. You will want to text a toxic ex, re-download a social app, or apologize to someone who mistreated you, just to feel a notification ping on your screen. Do not do it. You have to sit in the discomfort. You have to let the panic wash over you without trying to fix it with a cheap distraction. This is your nervous system finally processing years of suppressed anxiety. Treat yourself like you are recovering from a deep exhaustion, because emotionally, you are. If you can endure the withdrawal without running back to the very people who drained you, you will eventually cross the threshold into stage 3. Stage 3 is the state of flow. This is the breakthrough. This is the moment the heavy, suffocating feeling of loneliness evaporates and is replaced by an incredible, expansive sense of freedom. You begin to build what I call a one-person ecosystem. You start doing things simply because you want to, not because they look good on an Instagram story. You spend 3 hours reading a book, or working on a personal project, or going for a long drive with the windows down, and you suddenly realize you don't need anyone sitting in the passenger seat to make the experience valid. You stop viewing your solo activities as a waiting room for when you finally get a friend group, and you start viewing them as the main event of your life. You learn the profound, quiet joy of creating, learning, and existing entirely without an audience. You realize that your own company is not just tolerable, it is deeply, deeply intoxicating. Once you cross that difficult threshold and enter the state of flow, you step into what I call the unbothered era. This is the ultimate destination of your journey. I want you to imagine a scenario. It is a Friday night. You open your phone and see a picture of acquaintances out at a loud, crowded dinner party. A year ago, seeing that image would have sent a sharp, agonizing pang of rejection straight to your chest. You would have spiraled into FOMO, wondering why you weren't invited, dissecting your every flaw. But now, you look at that same photo, you hear the imaginary noise of that crowded room, and you feel absolutely nothing but profound, genuine relief that you are safe, quiet, and comfortable in your own space. Your mind has become a fortress. This transformation happens because you have finally developed self-sourced energy. For most of your life, you have been trying to plug your emotional charger into other people, desperately hoping they would give you enough validation to keep your battery running. But when you master solitude, you become your own power source. You no longer walk into a room wondering, will these people like me? Instead, you look around and calmly wonder, do I even like them? That subtle shift in your internal psychology changes how you carry yourself. You stop apologizing for your existence. You begin to romanticize your independence. You take yourself out to a nice restaurant. You sit at a table for one, surrounded by the loud clinking of glasses and chaotic conversations of other tables, and you exist inside a perfect bubble of tranquility. You go to the movies alone. You take trips alone. And instead of feeling like a tragic, lonely character in a sad story, you realize you are experiencing the ultimate, luxurious privilege of total freedom. You are no longer waiting for someone else's schedule to align with yours in order to live your life. And this is exactly where the most beautiful, almost frustrating paradox of human psychology reveals itself. The exact moment you truly, on a cellular level, stop needing friends is the moment you become incredibly magnetic. Desperation has a psychological scent, and human beings can subconsciously detect it from a mile away. It repels people because it feels like a heavy emotional demand. But peace? Autonomy? A person who is completely comfortable sitting in their own silence? That is incredibly rare in today's world. When you stop trying to mold yourself into a puzzle piece just to fit into someone else's life, the right people. The authentic, low-maintenance, deeply understanding people will naturally gravitate toward your quiet confidence. You won't have to force the connection. You won't have to perform. Because when you finally meet them, you will no longer be operating from a place of hunger. You will be operating from a place of absolute wholeness. I want to leave you with one final, undeniable truth. You are an entirely complete human being exactly as you are right now. You are not a broken puzzle piece sitting on the floor, desperately waiting for someone to walk by and pick you up to make you whole. But to fully step into this new chapter of your life, you have to do something incredibly difficult. You have to forgive the past versions of yourself. You have to forgive the version of you that begged for attention. Forgive the version of you that accepted absolute crumbs of affection and tried to convince yourself it was a feast. Forgive the version of you that silenced your own boundaries just to keep the wrong people sitting next to you. They did the best they could with the awareness they had at the time. But you know better now. It is time to bravely and quietly close the doors to rooms where you were never truly valued. Because the silence you are sitting in right now is not a punishment. It is not the graveyard of your social life. It is a forge. It is the exact, necessary environment required to build the strongest, most resilient, most unbothered version of you. The people who are meant to be in your life will not require you to bleed yourself dry just to keep them around. But until they arrive, you have to be willing to walk alone. If you are finally ready to stop running from the quiet, and you are ready to step fully into your era of self-mastery, I want you to go down to the comments right now and type the words, "I choose me." Let that be a permanent promise to yourself today. And if this message gave you the clarity you have been looking for, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We are going to continue building this unbothered life and navigating the psychology of deep personal growth together. Stop trying to make friends. Start mastering your solitude. Everything else will follow.